Hi, my name is Zach Mayne, and I'm a Choose Development Fellow for 2021 and 2022. I'm doing my research in the Merzdorf lab at Montana State University. So our lab focuses on the early foundations of the nervous system, and we use Xenopus laevis, or the African clawed frog, as a model organism. The stage of development that I focus on in my project is gastrulation, and specifically, I'm looking at a process called convergent extension, depicted over here on the right, where cells crawl toward the midline along each other and extend into a long, thin rod. They start out as kind of a broad sheet, and then they form a rod structure, and that's also depicted here from the side by these cells in pink. And they're transitioning from being a broad sheet into a long, thin rod known as the notochord, which is a really critical structure in inducing neural development. As for why I sought out developmental biology, I actually started with my interests in biomedical sciences in general when I was in the military. And I got to go to some pretty advanced trauma medicine courses where I learned how to give blood transfusions on the battlefield and other advanced techniques like that. And then in 2016, I suffered a head injury on my third deployment to Afghanistan that led to me being medically retired. And it also led to me spending a lot of time going in and out of neurology clinics and speaking with neurologists and neuropsychologists about the impacts that the brain injury was having on me. And it led to me being just utterly fascinated with the workings of the brain and wanting to understand the biological underpinnings of what was going on inside my own head. And then once I studied biology and neuroscience in college, it really was like opening Pandora's box. My interests just started expanding and expanding and expanding, and I kept finding myself going down all these different rabbit holes to the point where I was no longer interested in practicing medicine. What I really wanted to do was pursue research and just try to understand as much about the brain and about really biological systems in general as I possibly could. So as for why development, I think in particular has really captured my fascination. It's so widely important to all of biology, and I think at first glance, for someone who's not so familiar with it, they might simply think of development as being this ontogenetic transition from a single cell into a fully formed organism, which is fascinating in its own right. And I think that is the bulk of what developmental biology focuses on. And you could spend 100 lifetimes just learning these processes in different organisms, and you'd barely scratch the surface. But to me, what really blows my mind is the fact that these same processes that describe how a single cell can descend into millions, billions, trillions of coordinated cells with different gene expression patterns and morphologies, those same mechanisms can be used to talk about things like regeneration, stem cells, wound healing, but also phenotypic plasticity, where from the same genome you can have several different looking organisms. You can have rabbits change their coat colors when the seasons change, or songbirds changing the way their brains are wired up to sing different sorts of songs in different seasons, things like that. And then closely related to that is Evo-Devo, evolutionary developmental biology, and looking at how the evolutionary changes in developmental mechanisms are so important to the history of the tree of life, and also just to understanding our own place and the place of the other organisms that we care to know about, and their place within the tree of life. And there's, as I said, just so much more. So that's why developmental biology really fascinates me. It's such a wide-ranging field that you really don't see the depth of until you start to plunge in. And that's why I'm so excited for my future career in researching, hopefully something closely related to development, evolution, brain, but we'll see where life takes me. Thank you for watching.